My name is Dan Prinzing, the Executive Director of the Wasmus Center for Human Rights. On behalf of our Board of Directors, staff, and the Volunteer Memorial Docent Committee, thank you for joining us for this very special moment in the memorial. If you have perhaps noticed, the statue of Anne behind me does just as she did in the secret annex in Amsterdam. She looks out the window to the chestnut tree. It was on May 13th, 1944, that Anne Frank wrote, "Our chestnut tree is in full bloom. It's covered with leaves and is even more beautiful than last year," referring to that white horse chestnut tree that stood in the courtyard garden right outside of the secret annex window in Amsterdam. Just a few months after that diary entry, the inhabitants of the secret annex were arrested. 71 years after that last reference to the chestnut tree, we add another piece of Anne's story in the City of Trees. This process began in 2009 when the center first applied to the Anne Frank Center USA in New York to be awarded one of the 11 saplings propagated from Anne's tree. Today, we stand in company with the saplings already planted or yet to be planted on the west lawn of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C., the Boston Commons in Massachusetts, the William J. Clinton Presidential Center and Little Rock Central High School in Arkansas, Sonoma State University in California, the Children's Museum of Indianapolis in Indiana, the Holocaust Memorial Center in Michigan, Liberty Park commemorating 9/11 and South Cayuga State School District in New York, and the Holocaust Center for Humanity in Washington State. Reading from the diary of Anne Frank, it is my pleasure to introduce Rebecca Russell, granddaughter of memorial docents and Center Advisory Board members Don and Susan Curtis.
I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone. And I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. Anne writes this on the inside cover of her diary just after she receives it for her 13th birthday. At the time, she feels that she does not have any true confidants, which makes her feel lonely and misunderstood. Anne does, however, have many friends and admirers, and she is a playful, amusing, and social young girl. Thus, her sentiments in this passage may seem odd and a bit exaggerated, but she later explains that even though she has friends, she is never fully able to open up to them. I see the 8 of us in the annex, as if we were a patch of blue sky surrounded by menacing black clouds. They loom before us like an impenetrable wall, trying to crush us, but not yet able to. I can only cry out and implore, "Oh, ring open wide and let us out." Anne records this vivid image on November 8th, 1943, after living in the annex for more than a year. As the war rages on and people throughout Europe suffer, Anne is starting to become depressed and pessimistic about her family's chances of survival. She alternates between imagining what her future will be like and fearing that she and her family will be discovered at any time. I sometimes wonder if anyone will ever understand what I mean, if anyone will ever overlook my ingratitude and not worry about whether or not I'm Jewish and merely see me as a teenager badly in need of some good, plain fun. In this passage, from December 24th, 1943, Anne reminds us that she is just a normal young girl who has been forced into extraordinary circumstances. She willingly makes sacrifices and deals with the restrictions of the annex without much complaint, because she knows that she is more fortunate than her friends, who have already been arrested and sent to concentration camps. It is difficult in times like these. Ideals, dreams, and cherished hopes rise within us, only to be crushed by grim reality. It is a wonder I haven't abandoned all my ideals. They seem so absurd and impractical. Yet I cling to them, because I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart. Anne writes this on July 15th, 1944, less than 1 month before the Nazis arrest her and her family, sending them all to concentration camps. This is perhaps the most well-known quotation from Anne's diary, because it is a brazen expression of optimism in the face of imminent and incomprehensible cruelty. I get cross, then sad, and finally end up turning my heart inside out, the bad part on the outside and the good part on the inside, and keep trying to find a way to become what I'd like to be and what I could be if only there were no other people in the world. This statement ends Anne Frank's diary entry written on August 1st, 1944. Anne does not intend to end her diary at this point. To her, it is just the end of a regular day of hiding in the annex. However, this turns out to be her last entry, because the Nazis arrest her and her family just 3 days later.
Anne's words serve to both challenge and inspire the work of the Wasmuth Center for Human Rights and the message of the Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial. How lovely to think that no one need wait a moment. We can start now, start slowly changing the world. It gives me great pleasure to recognize one whose service and commitment to the city continues to shape the place that we all so proudly call home. Mayor Dave Beater.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. What a gorgeous day. Thank you all so much for being here and for allowing me to share a couple minutes with you. You know, I've had some tough speaking gigs in my time as mayor, but following Rebecca reading Anne Frank may be the toughest I've ever had, but I will do my best. This is such an important day and such a perfect symbol. As all of you well know, we are the city of trees, and that we dedicate a tree today is just so perfect. On top of that, I'm not sure if you know, but another group in town, the Basques, have the Tree of Guernica, our sister city. The Tree of Guernica has such important symbolism in Basque culture. It's the symbol of Basque autonomy, and we have a sapling of the tree in Guernica in front of the Basque Museum. So it is just so perfect on so many levels today to celebrate this day. This spot, whenever a group comes to town, I always let them know to visit the Anne Frank Memorial. It is hallowed ground, and it is such an important part of what makes this city a great place to live. And this is another step in making it even more hallowed, if that's even possible. So hats off to everyone involved in the memorial and for the work that went in to having this event today is just perfect. So what else I get to do? There are many things the mayor cannot control. But one thing we have almost unlimited authority to do is to proclaim things. Just as an aside, should any of you or your relatives or friends surpass the age of 90, you will get a proclamation in your name automatically. But this is a special opportunity and a special privilege, and I'll just read a little bit from a proclamation. Whereas in 2009, the Anne Frank Center launched the Sapling Project, a national initiative aimed at bringing together diverse communities and educational centers in the shared celebration of Anne, her beloved chestnut tree, her appreciation of nature, and her longing for freedom and justice in the world. And whereas the Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial was awarded one of the 11 saplings planted in the United States, in company with the U.S. Capitol Building, Boston Commons, Liberty Park in New York City, Central High School, and the William J. Clinton Presidential Center in Little Rock, Arkansas. And whereas the Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial is a vibrant outdoor classroom that presents the need to eradicate prejudice, hatred, and discrimination in all forms from our community, as well as from our individual lives. And whereas Boise is a community of caring people who have created a healthy, safe, and secure place for people of all geographic, ethnic, economic, religious, and lifestyle backgrounds to live, work, raise their children, and age with dignity. And we, the people of Boise, in keeping with the principle of equal civil and human rights for all, unequivocally oppose any manifestation of hatred and prejudice towards any group or individual in our community. Now, therefore, I, David H. Beater, Mayor of the City of Boise, do hereby proclaim May 13, 2015 as a day of dignity.
You're here.
And we will make that official and hand this over for safekeeping in a good spot. Again, folks, thank you so much for allowing me on behalf of the city to celebrate with you today. Thanks to so many of you for turning out. And we just cannot thank all those that have worked on the memorial and in this special part in the memorial. And here's to many, many great years to come in being such a hallowed and important place in our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Beater. I would also like to extend our gratitude and thanks to Doug Holloway, the director, and the team at Boise Parks and Recreation for their ongoing support and maintenance of the memorial. In partnership with the Wasma Center, what has been created is what the author Ryan Coonerty wrote in his National Geographic book, Etched in Stone, Enduring Words from Our Nation's Monuments, which includes a feature of the memorial. We celebrate the displayed words that define our nation, what we wish to remember and cannot afford to forget. I would like to also especially recognize the members of Boise High School's Humanitarian Club attending this dedication with their advisor, Sharon Hansen. On the dedication rock, placed next to the sapling, you will note that the stone was funded through the efforts of the Humanitarian Club members. Members who also worked with the Dream Chocolate Company to create and sell an Anne Frank Memorial chocolate bar. You'll want to buy one for your lunch today. Beyond their efforts to provide financial support for an important marker in the memorial, these club members and all the students attending today are the keepers of Anne Frank's legacy. The legacy, just as it is etched into the marker's granite, is rooted in Anne's pursuit of peace and tolerance. It was President John F. Kennedy who stated, "Tolerance implies no lack of commitment to one's own beliefs. Rather, it condemns the oppression or persecution of others." We have witnessed the incivility and heard the voices of the intolerant echo in our State House. We have been shamed when our Muslim and Hindu brothers and sisters have been mocked. We have been disgraced when our neighbors and our colleagues have been denied protections in the state's Human Rights Act. In his book, The Invitation, Clifton Talbert apologizes to his son for having not done enough to uphold Dr. King's dream. We still taste the bitterness of racism and discrimination. So we too apologize to the students attending today. There is much still to be done. Embrace Anne's legacy. Live a life in pursuit of peace and tolerance. Condemn the oppression and persecution of others. And in Anne's words, keep hoping for everything. Today, we stand together and proclaim, let the message grow. We reference that the memorial exists as a statement of our shared values and is the physical embodiment of the center's work to promote respect for human dignity and diversity. Yes, it's more than a park. It's where we pause to reflect, where we begin a conversation, and a place, well, let's share in song as Rebecca Scott and Debbie Sager take us somewhere.
There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet with open air, wait for us somewhere.
There's a time for us, someday a time for us, time together and time to spare, time to learn, time to care. Someday, somewhere,
We'll find a new way of living.
we'll find a way of forgiving. Somewhere, there's a place for us, a time and place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere.
Directing the National Sapling Project, it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Dr. Rebecca Faulkner from the Anne Frank Center USA in New York.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, all of you. It's my utter privilege to be with you on such a beautiful day in Boise. Last night it rained, and I assured Dan that the sun would come out today, and of course it has. And just so you know, if this was London, that wouldn't have happened, but it's happened here. I first want to share my sincere thanks and heartfelt gratitude to the Wasmuth Center for Human Rights, the home of the Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial, and in particular their executive director, Dan Prinzing, for making today possible. I would also like to thank Mayor Beta and the entire Boise community for bringing us to this monumentous day, the planting of the 7th U.S. Anne Frank sapling. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank our generous funders for making the sapling project possible. KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Netherland America Foundation, and the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. I would also like to acknowledge the Anne Frank Center's Board of Directors, specifically Tom Weissmuller. It's wonderful to have you here today. 11 sites throughout the United States will be planting chestnut saplings derived from the majestic tree that stood in the courtyard behind the Anne Frank house until falling prey to disease and toppling in a windstorm in 2010. Just 1 year prior, as part of our partnership with the Anne Frank House, the center received 11 saplings to share with worthy organizations across the United States, with a demonstrated commitment to upholding Anne's vision for a peaceful and more tolerant world. After reviewing proposals from dozens of organizations, our Sapling Project Committee selected the Idaho Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial to receive one of these precious trees. It made perfect sense for one of the saplings to make its home here. And thanks to the dedication of the team at the Wasmuth Center, this tiny tree has set down its roots and begun to grow in its beautiful new home here in Boise, the city of trees. The memorial's little tree is in good company, with saplings now planted on Boston Common, the Holocaust Memorial Center in Michigan, and on the west front lawn of the US Capitol, to name but 3. The remaining 4 saplings will be planted in the next 2 years at sites including Little Rock Central High School in Arkansas and Liberty Park, commemorating 9/11 in New York City. All 11 sapling sites demonstrated their commitment to bring together diverse communities in a shared celebration of Anne, her beloved chestnut tree, her appreciation of nature, and her longing for freedom and justice in the world. We cannot think of a more fitting location for this tiny sapling, surrounded by the wisdom of the world's humanitarian leaders and watched over by the beautiful bronze statue of Anne herself. The Anne Frank Center USA was founded in 1959 by Otto Frank, Anne's father, and is the oldest partner organization of the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam. We use the diary and the spirit of Anne Frank as unique tools to advance her legacy, to educate young people and communities across the United States about the dangers of intolerance, anti-Semitism, racism, and discrimination in all its forms, and to inspire the next generation to build a world based on equal rights and mutual respect. The Anne Frank Sapling Project and the ceremony and dedication today, as well as the many planting ceremonies to come at our partner locations, serve to commemorate Anne's vision as we know it from her diary. Since its first publication in 1947, Anne's diary has sold tens of millions of copies worldwide and has been published in more than 70 different languages. Anne's diary is one of the world's most widely read books of non-fiction. And although I cannot be sure, I like to imagine that Anne would be quite pleased knowing she's become something of an international celebrity. Like so many young people her age, Anne wanted to be independent and respected for who she was, not what others labeled her as. During her time in hiding, Anne struggled with her confinement, but was able to seek solace from looking out the single window left uncovered in the attic at the top of the secret annex. Nearly every morning I go to the attic to blow the stuffy air out of my lungs, she writes. From my favorite spot on the floor, I look up to the blue sky and the bare chestnut tree, on whose branches little raindrops shine, appearing like silver, and at the seagulls and other birds as they glide on the wind. As long as this exists, I thought, this sunshine and this cloudless sky, as long as I can enjoy it, how can I be sad? As long as this exists, and that should be forever, I know that there will be solace for every sorrow, whatever the circumstances. I firmly believe that nature can bring comfort to all those who suffer. So, why do we continue to teach Anne Frank 70 years after her death in the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp? Because hate is taught, racism is taught, intolerance is taught, and we, gathered here today to celebrate this tiny chestnut tree, we seek to teach otherwise. Bringing Anne Frank's story into our communities helps teach us all to respect one another in a shared environment. It teaches us to celebrate diversity rather than view difference as an obstacle. It teaches us to be proactive and to help those in need. And because, as idealistic as it may sound, we, like Anne, believe that in spite of everything, people are truly good at heart. I encourage you to visit Anne's chestnut tree often and to reflect on the inherent strength within each one of us. For even such small things as this little sapling can provide great inspiration for those who look for it. It's my pleasure to introduce the Anne Frank Center's Advisory Board member, Tom Weissmuller. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Rebecca. On behalf of the Anne Frank Board, I wish to thank you all for being here for this momentous day. Now, our board consists of people from all religions, all walks of life, but one single unifying dedication and that is to the spirit of human rights and the need to spread human rights throughout the world. And we're very fortunate. I mean, here I am. Why does a board member come here to the City of Trees? Well, to plant a tree. That's pretty good. And it's an important tree, as Rebecca has stated. It's about the same distance from this window to where the tree is, to where the actual tree was in Amsterdam. I saw it many times through the same window that Anne Frank looked through. It's a privilege for me to do that and a privilege for me to be here. Nobody pays for our board members to go and visit these ceremonies. I wouldn't miss this for the world. I'm very, very proud to be here. I want to give a quote from Otto Frank. Otto, years after his family was killed during the war, said, "How could I have known how much it meant to Anne to see a patch of blue sky, to observe the seagulls as they flew, and how important the chestnut tree was for her?" Now, he states in here that she kept these feelings to herself. No, she didn't. She wrote them in her diary. And her diary is now an extension and is able to convey those feelings to you, to everyone here, to children throughout the world. Anne Frank, a few years ago, received the first posthumous Champion of Literacy Award that the Walt Whitman Foundation gives out. Other famous people like Ray Bradbury have received it, but Anne was the first who received it when she was no longer here. Her diary has been a pathway to literacy to people all over the world, in all languages, but not just in literacy, in understanding what human rights is all about. Not just discrimination against Jews, but discrimination against all people for all reasons that we find socially unacceptable. The fact that all of you are here tells me in a message that it's exactly what you feel too. I want to give another quote from Anne, and this is one that she did right before her birthday. And the quote is, "My greatest wish is to be a journalist and later on a famous writer." Right? Now, Anne was wishing this near her birthday. Every year, when we celebrate Anne's birthday in New York City, we tell Anne, "Your wish has been granted already. Think of another one." Now, every one of you should come away from here believing and thinking in the necessity of human rights, and not just the bricks that are in the wall here or the messages that are written. They should give you inspiration. But what you need to do is build the structure of human rights in your heart. Be able to convey them to your colleagues, to your fellow students, to your children, to your parents. Convey them to everyone who needs the message, because the world really needs it. What Boise has done here, leapfrogging after our exhibit came here 20 years ago, has been astounding. It is a dedication to human rights that is unparalleled anywhere in this country. You should be very proud of what you've done here. I certainly am, and so is the board. I just thank you very much for your hospitality, and thank you for all you've done here. Dan, you guys have been great.
Tom and Rebecca, we are delighted to have you in Boise and sincerely grateful for the sapling entrusted to our community. In closing, I'd like to take us back once more to the diary of a young girl and one of the quotes etched into the memorial stone. "When I look up at the sky, I somehow feel that everything will change for the better, that this cruelty too shall end, that peace and tranquility will return once more. In the meantime, I must hold on to my ideals. Perhaps the day will come when I'll be able to realize them." To conclude the dedication, Rebecca Scott and Debbie Sager.
Well, the world needs now love, sweet love. It's the only thing that's just too good love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
Oh, we don't need another mountain. There are mountains and hillsides enough to climb. There are oceans and rivers enough to cross, enough to last till the end of time.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that's just too good love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
Oh, we don't need another meadow. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow. There are sunbeams and moonbeams enough to shine. Oh, listen, Lord, if you want to know. The world needs now is love, sweet love.
No, not just for some, for everyone. What the
World needs now is love, sweet love.
no, not just for some, but for everyone.
World needs now is love, sweet love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
And once more, today we proclaim, let the message grow. Thank you for joining us for the dedication.